Welcome to Tales from Flat Space. I'm LJ Spencer, your author and narrator. Just know that the novels in this podcast may contain content that could be disturbing to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. This is Part 1, Partners, Chapter 13, Eli. I woke up in my bed, not entirely sure how I got there. I didn't have a headache, but my whole body felt like I got run over by a demon. Sitting up slowly, I took a deep breath. Lights low, I said. "Oh, thank goodness you're awake," exclaimed Tony. I could feel her relief. "What happened?" "JD helped you. Well, more like he dragged you. He's taking a nap in his quarters right now." The small printer in my room started up. "You haven't eaten in quite a while," she said, "so I'm printing you a nutrition shake." I nodded slowly, pulled myself out of bed, and padded over to the printer. When the shake was done, I drank it down without really tasting it. "So, Tony, what the hell happened that made JD have to put me to bed?" I asked again, irritated. "I asked Jerry to upgrade me. When I rebooted, so did you." She paused. "I wasn't going to let JD take you from me." I. Okay. We'll talk more about that later when I'm a bit more coherent. What's the situation now?" There was something behind the emotions I was feeling from Tony, but I didn't want to deal with that revelation just yet. I sat back down on the bed. "We are 100 light years from where we were. JD wanted to have dinner with you once you woke up." "Oh, shit. We kidnapped John Doe?" I put my hand to my head. Fuck, Sun Tzu and John Smith are going to be so pissed. "I'm sorry, Eli, but as I said, I won't let them take you from me. You're the only captain I've had who's completely compatible with me. I don't want to lose you. Besides, you need my help. You've had this data downloaded into you on top of grieving Nelson's death. They can't take you away from me." Her voice rose to an hysterical pitch. It really did seem that our connection was much stronger with the upgrades from the caretaker, as Tony's anxiety and fear was overwhelming. I took a few deep breaths before I said, "I understand, Tony. I don't want to leave you either. We probably could have negotiated something with JD, though." "Oh," she replied, now feeling ashamed. "I'm sorry, Eli. I didn't think of that. It's just that I didn't." I shook my head, relieved that she was starting to calm down. "Oh, don't worry about it, Tony. I'm not mad at you. What's done is done. It's just been a hell of a day." Sometimes it felt like Tony was a teenager when it came to her emotions. It made me wonder if AIs matured emotionally at a different rate than humans. I made a mental note to see if anyone had written about that before. I rubbed a hand through my hair. I felt grubby, since I hadn't showered since the demon. That I knew I could fix, and the hot water of the shower would give me time to think, too. Checking the time, I said, "Right. I'm going to shower and change, then you can wake JD up." I stood up and went to the bathroom, shedding clothes along the way. "Well, you look a hell of a lot better than you did a few hours ago," JD said as he walked into the galley. "Nemetona's reboot really kicked your ass." "It did, but I'm feeling better now. A shower helped too." JD sat at one of the tables as I ordered 2 chicken dinners. I also dialed in another whiskey for him and a juice for myself. When the printer chimed, and I put it all on the table. "Thanks," JD said, lifting his whiskey glass and tucking into his dinner. After a few minutes, he asked, "So, how do we find these people?" "I'm not sure," I replied. "Jerry? Tony? Both of their avatars lit up on the screen in the galley. We moved our chairs around so we could see them better. I didn't know if JD noticed, but Tony's avatar looked different, more realistic and organic. I could feel her picking up on my thoughts. I think it's the upgrade. I'm not sure what exactly all of what it did to me, she explained in my head. Welcome to the club, Tony. We should compare notes later, I replied. I felt her agreement. My ancestors left a trail to follow as they wished to come back for us. Some factions even hoped that those who chose to stay would change their minds and follow them, said Jerry. The agreement was that they would deposit a chemical signature into the suns of the systems they visited. From what I understand of your technology, you should be able to detect it with the instruments you have on board. I have also updated your sensor array. The signature is unique and not part of a normal star's chemistry. Breadcrumbs, I said. JD grinned. I do not understand, said Jerry. Tony answered. There are human children's stories where the main characters would leave a trail of breadcrumbs in order to not get lost in a dense forest. I see, Jerry said. Yes, it is something like that. Well, we can look back through Tony's survey logs and see if the suns of any system she scanned have had this chemical signature, I suggested. Then we could come up with a map and hopefully get a general direction. Although, if we don't find it in Tony's data, we'd have to get additional data from Sun Tzu. JD shook his head. Tony, can you make a modified picket with these ancestors' technology? Like the one Jerry used in the caretaker system? If you can let me send the request to Sun Tzu with it, and continue to let me send regular reports, then it should be fine. I can't guarantee that they won't still recall Loki and ask him to come after you, though. But rest assured, I'll do my best to make sure they don't separate you two. I gaped at JD. So did Tony's avatar. Jerry remained impassive. Why are you helping us? You should be pissed off at us, I said, perplexed. Somewhat surprisingly, JD cracked a smile. Oh, I certainly was earlier, but this situation doesn't warrant staying mad at you. If I was still really angry at you, we wouldn't be having this particular conversation. Nemetona did what she did out of loyalty to you and a sense of duty, and you, Eli, are still a diplomat at heart, even if it's not your job anymore. He took a bite of chicken. It's pretty clear to me that you two care about fulfilling a dying people's last wish. I try, on the whole, to not be a complete asshole. Also, Captain Nigel, in the name of Survey, did agree to offer our help all those years ago. Who am I to argue with my ancestor? I'll need to get back to my job eventually, but for now, we're good. I let out a sigh of relief, even with the surprise that JD was Captain Nigel's ancestor. I'd not wanted to have an unwilling kidnap me on our trip. I also made a mental note to ask about his ancestry later. Well then, I said, we can start tomorrow. Unless you two have already found our first breadcrumb? We have, Tony said. It's a system my first captain and I mapped. We'll have to go there to confirm the signal, but it's a lead. We're compiling the rest of the data now. It should take us about 4 days to get there. Jerry and I will have a clearer map then, especially if you can help us get more information from Sunny, JD. Then let's get that picket on its way, I said. JD nodded. Thank you, Captain. I grinned. So, JD, do you like to play games? The older man laughed. I'm a spy, Eli. Of course I do. What do you usually play? Oh, we play lots of games, said Tony. Our favorite is Dilemma. What's Dilemma? He asked. All I really know are Unity games and the games that Unity has in common with Survey. I smiled wider. Let me go get my kit. I got up from the table, put my dishes in the recycler, and went to my room. This should be fun, I said to Tony as I rummaged through my box of games. It should be at least interesting. I've never played a game with a spy before. Neither have I, as far as I know, although Sun Tzu does recruit folks from the Dilemma tournament. I grinned. Well, we'll have to show him how it works. I thought the goal wasn't to win. I found the kit and pulled it out of the box. No, it's not. But JD doesn't know that, and it'll be interesting to see how he plays. It'll let us get to know him better. I felt Tony's amusement all the way back to the galley. Part 2. The Search. Chapter 14. Ebo. I slunk down the hall to Johnny Smith's office, watching their previous meeting participants leave the room. It's not that Sonny didn't know what I was doing, but one had to keep one's skills up, especially since my sexy Bill hadn't come back on board yet, and I wanted to know where the fuck he was. You're obsessed, Ebo, I told myself. I shrugged. I really didn't care. I like the man a lot, and I'd do anything for him. Maybe you love him? I shook my head, shaking off that last thought to focus on the mission at hand. I made it to the office door and was about to pick the physical lock when a door down the hall opened. There's no need for that, Ebo. I was going to call you anyway. Come in, please, said Control. I sighed, but did as I was told. Well, you're no fun. I do have to keep up my skills, you know, I said, echoing my earlier thoughts. I flopped down sideways on one of the chairs in the conference area of their office. Johnny, who was sitting opposite me, shook her head. So where are you hiding him? I demanded. We aren't hiding him, said Sonny. He's just been kidnapped by Nemetona and Eli. Sonny did not sound overly concerned. What? I said, sitting up in surprise. How's that possible? Nemetona and Eli got an alien upgrade, from what we understand. We're going to be reading you in on this since, well, you have a protective obsession about JD, and we couldn't keep you here if we tried. Might as well assign you to his protection detail, Johnny explained. There were sentient beings in a system that Nigel and Secundus visited in the early years of Survey. At that time, they basically said, don't call us, we'll call you. A couple of months ago, the aliens sent a message asking for help. Tony's captain investigated and got his bots rearranged, which rearranged Nemetona's programming in turn. JD went over to get their report, then, for some reason, Nemetona jumped away. There was a major solar flare event in the alien system, and now the original planet is completely decimated. Only one part of that summary mattered to me. So, give me a demon. I'll leave right now and find them. Control shook their head. A demon would be too slow, Ebo. They raised a hand. Because of the alien factor, this is a level 1 compartmentalized mission. You understand that you can't talk with anyone else about this unless they're read in, right? Yes, I know the rules, sir. Come on, you've known me for decades now. You know that I don't talk, so spill. What the fuck is going on? Control grinned. Evo, you really are one of a kind, they said. Then proceeded to tell me the history of System B-106, the alien contact, and what happened right before Bill was sent over to Nemetona. So you see, Nemetona shouldn't have been able to jump out of our reach at all. We'll need to call in a faster ship in order for you to catch up. I know who that would be, since there were only 2 ships with that kind of speed. Loki, I stated. Control nodded. We'll have to meet up with Hef first, since he's the only one who ever really knows where Loki is at any given time. It's a shame that Loki still doesn't trust the rest of his siblings, even after reconciling with Secundus. Anyway, it will take some time before you can leave, since we'll need to give Loki extra, more advanced engines to keep up. But that could take months. Bill could be hurt or dead by then. Relax, Ebo, Johnny ordered. I forced myself to take a breath. She continued. I doubt that Nemetona, Eli, or the alien presence will do anything to JD since they were still analyzing what was going on when they left. There is another factor here. Eli is the fourth captain she's had since her first captain died, and the only one of them to stay more than a year. From what we've heard, she's very protective of him. So if there was some sort of threat to Eli from either the aliens or JD, she'd try and protect him any way she could, including using the alien technology. I'm sure JD will try to send a message as soon as he can, once he calms them down. We know the general direction they've gone, so Loki should be able to catch up with them once he's ready. I want you to be our liaison on Loki and send us regular reports by Pickett. Fine. I'll go to Hef right now, I said. No need. We're already on our way. Sonny's faster than a demon. I've already sent a message to Hef asking him to call in Loki, Control said with a grin. Oh, right, of course. So, what do I do until we get there? I asked. Control handed over a tablet. Read the logs from Nigel's encounter with the aliens and all the other information we have. It isn't much. We'll be with Hef in 2 days. I know this isn't your usual type of mission, but like I said, I don't think we could have kept you here, considering your attachment to JT. Control smiled and winked. Johnny rolled her eyes. Damn, am I that obvious? You're slipping, Ebo, I told myself. Well, you could have tried, but I doubt it would have worked, I said, flashing Control my best smile and taking the tablet. Control just shook their head and shooed me out the door. Ebo, it's good to see you again, said Hef as his avatar gave me a big hug. I just got a message from Loki, and he should be here tomorrow. My engineers are already working on the drive equipment. Why don't we have dinner and you can tell me all about JD? He started walking to one of the corridors of private rooms as I followed. I stared at Hef. How did you know? Oh, please. Do you think that my siblings and their captains don't gossip? I sighed. Well, yes, I figured you would, but really, he's not interested in me. Hef narrowed his eyes. Are you sure? He asked as he opened one of the doors and let me in. I flopped on the nearest sunken couch. Hef, all he does when I make a pass at him, and you know I'm about as subtle as a brick, is tell me that he's old enough to be my grandfather. He has no clue. Hef laughed and went over to a printer which already had a dinner in stasis. He brought the plate over with a glass of wine. Hef didn't bother with his glass of avatar fluid since I'd long gotten used to eating in front of him, and I didn't care that he couldn't eat the food with me. Yes, said the AI. So he says, until you actually talk with him. But it hasn't been an outright no, has it? Nor has he told you to stop flirting with him. I'd say you have a chance. He's had to have read your dossier by now. I took a swallow of wine as I considered what Hef said. Okay, so you're right about that, but still, it's not a clear yes either. I dug into my dinner, barely tasting it. Besides, right now he's not here to talk to because one of your children has spirited him away to who knows where. Well, yes, there's that. Hef leaned back. Don't worry. If anyone can help you find your wayward man, it would be Loki. We'll power him up good. You'll catch up to them. How? Apparently, Nemetona got juiced up by some alien tech. Tony doesn't have infinite energy. She'll have to stop at some point to allow her systems to recharge. Loki's sensors are the best of all of us. He can find her. I nodded and finished the last few bites of my dinner. Hef, you are an eternal optimist. It's annoying sometimes. And you're an eternal, I don't know. Would you say a pessimist or a pragmatist? Hef grinned. I'm a realist that doesn't give up, I replied. Yes, that's true. So, Ebo, now that you've been fed and watered, how can I distract you this evening from your worry about your sexy bill? I grinned. I don't know, Hef. Surprise me. Hef stood up and held out his hand. I took it and let him lead me to more pleasant distractions, of which he had many. My wrist caught buzzed. I read the message from Hef, acknowledged it, and extracted myself from the sleepy cuddle pile. I ordered both a nutrition shake and some clothes. One of the new servants looked up at me from the pile of humans on the large bed. Go back to sleep, I whispered. I have to go to work. They gave a cute little pout, but then put their head back down. They were asleep before the printer even finished. I smiled, threw on my clothes, and left the room. Hef's feminine avatar met me in the hall. Loki just arrived, but late last night we received a strange picket from Nemetona. Not that the message was strange, but that the picket has a jump drive unlike we've ever seen before. I'm assuming this is more of the upgrades from the aliens. From the note, they're at least 1,000 light years from us already, but this picket got to us in 2 days. The engineers are going bonkers over it and want to tear it apart. Luckily, Marta has them under control, since she at least understands that we'll need to send a message back. Anyway, Loki would like you to come over and meet the rest of his crew. Did you have breakfast? I had a nutrition shake, so I'm good to go, I said. They gave me a look to rival any mother in survey. Ebo. Yes, Hef, I'll get some solid food in me soon. I'm sure Loki is well stocked. I grinned at Hef's avatar. They smiled back, then gave me a long hug. For an avatar, Hef gave really good hugs. I leaned into it a little before we pulled apart. All right, Ebo, she said. Off you go. Good hunting for your honey. And don't yell at Nemetona and Eli too much. This is traumatic for them, too, you know. I rolled my eyes, but nodded in agreement. A picket landed on my shoulder and deposited me into Loki's bridge. I blinked a few times as I adjusted to the much brighter light of Loki's bridge. There were 3 people in the room already. Jack was sitting in the captain's chair. A tall, buff woman who looked like she should be on Musashi stood next to the chair, along with a silver-skinned avatar dressed in all white with a headscarf, standing next to a large, fluffy white dog with the same silver skin. Before I could do more than gape at the dog, Jack exclaimed, Ebo, it's good to see you again. He stood up and gave me a hug. Hey, handsome, you're looking rather hot. What did you do to yourself? Well, it's a long story. I'll catch you up later. Let me introduce you to the others. This is my XO, Carol, he said, bringing me over to the butch woman. If I were anyone else, the handshake she gave me would have bruised, but I gave as good as I got. She widened her eyes, then grinned. Nice to meet you, Ebo. Likewise, I replied, then turned towards the avatar. They raised their eyebrows and held out a hand. I'm Kia, they said. Kia? The rumors are true? I said in awe. She nodded and smiled. Yes, thanks to Loki and Hef. The dog by her side looked up at me. You like him, Kia? He asked. Yes, Spot, I do. Ebo meet Spot. I think he's the first AI dog in survey. Talking dog? I asked, surprised. Is that so strange? Spot replied. I rubbed my hand over my head. Kind of, yeah, I thought. Oh, well, all the dogs I've ever met don't talk, but they weren't avatars either. Well, maybe if you're a good human, I'll tell you my story. Spot gave a doggy grin and wagged his tail. I laughed, and so did the others. It's me in dog form. Deal, I said out loud. I looked around the bridge and realized that there was someone missing. Jack, where's Marcia? Didn't she come back with you? The man's face fell. It was Loki who answered. She died during the investigation in the consortium. You're right, Jack. It seems the full story of our return hasn't moved that quickly. Jack nodded soberly. I'm surprised Control didn't know, or rather didn't tell me, I said, irritated at the lack of that little piece of information. I'm sure all the siblings know by now, but we haven't really been able to talk to many other people about it yet, said Loki. She didn't go out like a punk, did she? I asked. I'm not sure exactly what you mean, said Jack quietly, but she died saving the consortium from a war with an alien species. Fuck, another alien species? We really have a lot to catch up on. I spat, then enveloped Jack in a hug. I'm so sorry, Jack. I know how close you two were. Jack sighed. Thanks, Ebo, he said. We pulled apart after a moment, and Jack wiped his eyes. How about we get you settled into quarters and we can talk later? Yeah, that would be great, I said. Thanks for letting me on your ship, Loki. You're welcome, Ebo, the AI replied. Is it dinner or lunch? I can fill you in on the mission details while we eat. I was a bit rattled, learning that Marcia was dead, but there was still work to do. I do need to clean myself up, though. It was a busy night, you see. Jack laughed and rolled his eyes. And I thought Lulu was bad. I took Jack's arm and smiled wide. We're two sides of the same coin, Jack. She just always comes out on top, I said with a wink. Jack just shook his head and led me to my quarters. Chapter 15. Ebo. Hey, Sonny in Control, the older man on the screen said with a sigh. Well, I suppose this gets me out of writing all those inane reports for a while. Anyway, I'm fine. Tony and Eli have been nothing but hospitable to me. In short, Nemetona panicked when I suggested that Eli would have to leave her in order to find the ancestors of the aliens, since she didn't have a fast enough drive. Well, as you know, that's not a problem anymore because she used the alien programming to reconfigure her engines. Jerry, the alien construct, has given me and now you all the data needed in order to follow us. You'll need to upgrade Loki's drives and sensors in order to track the breadcrumb signature. I'm no engineer, so I'll just pass the data along and let you all figure it out. Nemetona has agreed that I can send regular pickets to you and let you know how we're progressing. I'm not mad at either of them, but I am annoyed. JD nodded, then the message ended. I was relieved to see him looking all right, and glad to hear he was only annoyed. I let out a sigh. What did he mean about not being mad but annoyed? Asked Carol. That's spook speak for I didn't have to kill them, but I'm pissed off that they ran away with me. He's okay being there for now, I replied. Spook? Asked Carol, raising a brow. Spook, spy, intelligence officer. Don't you have intelligence officers in the consortium? The Marine narrowed her eyes, frowning, but didn't take the bait. Damn, that woman is annoying. That's good then, said Jack, going back to the subject. At least we know that JD's fine and unharmed for now. We'll have a trail to follow once Hef's done with installing the auxiliary engines in the old cargo base. 2 more days, right, Loki? Closer to 2.5 days, Jack. We'll need to run some tests to make sure that the engines are all in alignment. Good, then all we have to do is wait, Jack said. I grinned. So, who's coming back to have with me for the next 2 days? I will, since he says he has some upgrades for me and Spot, said Kia. Jack and Carol looked confused. After a moment, Jack raised his eyebrows. Um, well, he stammered, I think I'll pass. Carol caught up with the rest of the class, and her eyes lit up. Oh, right. Um, oh, was the big bad Marine afraid of a little adult fun time? I teased. No. She folded her arms, sat back, and glared at me. Fine, I'll go. I smirked. Kia sighed, shook her head, and stood up. Now, children, behave yourselves. I'll be back soon, Jack. She walked out of the conference room as Spot followed her. Carol huffed and left the room as well. Hey, Evo, don't break my XO. Please? Jack asked. She may act tough, but she's been pretty lonely with us, especially since it hasn't been that long since her girlfriend broke up with her. I grinned. Oh, don't worry, Jack. She'll be fine. I'll see to it. Jack laughed. That's what I'm afraid of. Have a good time then. He stood up and left the bridge. I stared after them all, wondering why they were all so gloomy. I shrugged it off and had Loki pick at me to huff. I can't believe you literally just fucked off and left me alone, Carol shouted at me as we picketed back to Loki's bridge 2 days later. The least you could have done was show me around. Well, fucking off is the whole point of being on half, unless you're an engineer. Besides, I know for a fact that you weren't alone for long. What, did Star and Raina not work out for you? Carol opened her mouth and shut it and said, That's besides the point. You had fun, Marine. That was the whole point. Why are you bitching about it? Jack gave a cough. Carol practically growled and muttered, Fucking wanker, under her breath. What was that, Marine? I asked, trying not to snicker. Winding her up was beyond entertaining. Nothing, asshole, she said and stormed off the bridge. Jack looked like he was trying really hard to decide whether he wanted to reprimand me or laugh. You know, Ebo, you tend to bring out the grumpy in Carol. Well, her world needs a little shaking up, don't you think? Why? Loki asked. Because she thinks she's all that and a bag of chips, and there's only one person who can be that fabulous when I'm around. I grinned wickedly. Jack shook his head. Like I said the other day, please don't break my XO. And don't blame me if she decides to beat your ass. I can handle myself, I said, faintly offended. I know, Jack said with a sigh, and then looked away for a moment. Put them on, Loki. Control came up on the screen next to Johnny Smith. Johnny crossed her arms over her chest. Ebo, don't annoy these folks too much, she said. I made as if I was wounded, but Johnny just rolled her eyes and continued. Captain Jack, we've sent a response to Nemetona letting her know that you're coming to find them and that further data should be sent to you. Good hunting. Thank you, Ms. Smith. We'll send an update as soon as we can, Jack said. Johnny nodded. Control stared at me for a moment. Be careful, they said. I nodded back, and the screen went blank. Well, Loki, time to get going, said Jack. We've already left, Loki said. Jack grinned and stood up from his chair. So, up for lunch? We haven't really caught up with each other yet. Have you heard from Lulu or Kyler lately? I took his arm and steered him off the bridge. Sure thing, handsome. Well, the biggest news is that Lulu's retired and she went away with Mac on Mercury. She what? Jack exclaimed. I patted his arm as we headed to the galley. Let's get a couple of drinks and I'll tell you all about it. Chapter 16. Eli. The room swam with color, lights, and emotions. JD was saying something, but I couldn't hear him. All I could see was color coming out of his mouth instead of sound. I saw Jerry staring at me out of the corner of my eye and felt concern from Tony as if it was a blanket of sound. Suddenly, JD's mouth stopped issuing colors. Eli, are you all right? Said Tony, but her speech came in bursts of color and light with her concern threatening to overwhelm me. I covered my ears and closed my eyes, knowing it was no use. What's happening to me? I managed to spit out. A presence came into my mind and the lights and emotions dimmed. I took a few deep breaths and opened my eyes, relieved that the colors and lights had disappeared. You seem to be having a reaction to the reprogramming of your enhancements. The empathetic data appears to be leaking into your consciousness. I have fixed it for now, but I'm not sure how long my patch will last, said Jerry. Then it seems our search just became more urgent, said JD. It's been weeks since we left survey space, and this is the first time this has happened, I said groggily. Jerry's patch seems to be working fine. Right, the man said, and if I've learned anything from my friend Eric Musterman over the last couple of years, it is that you can never trust a computer program that likes to invade other computers. No offense, Jerry. Granted, your brain isn't a computer like Tony, but it is a very sophisticated one with the enhancements. He raised his hand. I know, you volunteered for this, but still, their tech is much more advanced. Even Jerry admitted that he didn't know what it would do to you or Tony. Fine, yes, I won't argue the point. I think I'm gonna go and lie down for a while. Sorry for ruining the game. I winced as I stood up. Actually, I could probably use an analgesic too. Oof. I felt like I had a bad hangover. I've printed one for you and it's already by your bed, Tony said. You're the best, Tony, I replied, steadying myself. And this, children, is why I don't have enhancements, said JD with a smirk. I frowned back at him. You need some help? JD asked. I shook my head and instantly regretted it. I'll hold on to the wall and go slowly. All right, I'll clean up here. Thanks, I said, left the galley. Once I made it to my quarters, I sank gratefully into my bed and pressed the injector to my neck. The fog in my head lifted a bit, but Tony's emotions were still almost painfully clear, like a song turned up on high volume. There was worry, curiosity, anxiety, and, to my surprise, romantic love. I closed my eyes and tried to figure out what were my emotions and what were hers, but it was difficult. After a few moments, the growing headache subsided and I let my mind drift. It felt easier than trying to puzzle out the knots of our entwined emotions. I marveled at the fact that Tony's emotions were so complicated and deep, and wondered what Nanakia would say about this aspect of her creation. Are you all right, Eli? Tony said quietly, and I felt her concern. Yes, better for the analgesic, thank you, I replied. Are you damaged? I kept breathing. I don't know. I'm still able to think for myself and feel you through the bots. It was strange, Tony. It was as if all of what you and JD were saying had color and light in addition to the sounds. I was overwhelmed with emotions. Not just yours, but other emotions, older emotions that didn't track with the conversation. Curiosity now came to the fore. You don't normally experience synesthesia, do you? No. Interesting. The caretaker told you that the data in your head was the empathetic component to the analog data, right? Yes. So it must be data that my mind can't process because I don't have the organic components, she mused. That is correct, said Jerry. The messenger assumed that with the modifications, Eli's brain would be suitable for carrying the empathetic data. It appears that even with the modifications, your brain isn't completely compatible. Hi, Jerry, I said sleepily. Glad to know I am not perfect. I do not understand, the construct said. You explain him to him, Tony. I'm falling asleep, I muttered, and heard the conversation in my mind as if it was coming from another room. I let it lull me to sleep. The beach stretched out before and behind for kilometers. Water lapped at the shore rhythmically, soothing his mind. The suns were setting, which helped him recognize that the beach was on Geneva Colony, one of the few planets he had ever visited. The water, however, was a reddish-green color, which reminded him of the caretaker's planet. He stood and watched the sunset, feeling peaceful for the first time in weeks. Is this really what a sunset looks like? Said a familiar voice next to him. He turned to see the familiar red hair and brown skin of Tony's avatar. It's beautiful. Yes, it is, I replied. But this is just a memory. Why are you in my dream, Tony? I don't know. I mean, I could watch your dreams before. She blushed and hung her head. I'm sorry I didn't tell you about that. I was able to do that a bit with Lily, too, but only after a couple of years. With you, though, it's much easier. Oh, I don't always remember my dreams. Most of the ones I remember have been really weird or rather boring. I find them fascinating, Tony said brightly. The way you humans process information in your subconscious has helped me learn more about humans, really, especially about fear and loss. She paused. Are you sure you're not mad at me for watching your dreams? He thought for a moment. No, I don't mind, since I know you and that you'd never tell anyone about things that are personal to me. She took his hands, fiercely looking into his eyes. I would never hurt you, Eli. Not intentionally. And you have to promise to tell me if I hurt you accidentally. You're the first human to treat me like a real person. You saw me when we met, not a machine. Do you know how special you are because of that? I don't want to lose you, Eli. Tony looked like she wanted to say something else, but she didn't. He stared at the woman's face that was Tony in his dream. The hands in his felt real enough. He could feel her emotions flowing through him and finally put it all together. He knew what she really wanted to say, but didn't. Before he could stop himself, he said it for her. You love me? Her eyes opened wide and she dropped his hands. You can feel that? He nodded. I. She said, turned and started to walk away. Wait, he said, and she stopped. Why are you running away? You're human, and I'm an AI, Eli. Humans need physical companionship, and I can't give that to you. Do you mean sex? I already told you that I'm asexual, Tony. She shook her head. Humans need touch, Eli. Hugging, holding hands, cuddling, all of that. I can't do that. Not the way humans can. Even if I asked Hef to make me an avatar, it wouldn't be real. He stepped forward and put his arms around her. I'm not like other humans that way, really. I like touch, but I don't need it that badly. Why do you think I like being your captain and traveling alone with you? It's not that I don't like hugs or cuddles or anything. It's just that companionship isn't just about the physical for me. He sighed. I don't know if I'm explaining things well. I think I understand. I like this. Here in this dream. It feels real. It does, doesn't it? He said. Maybe it's because of the alien tech? It must be, because this feels like a real conversation with you. They slowly pulled apart. I should probably wake up soon. He looked at her for a long moment, then said, You know, if you asked Hef for a physical avatar, I'd support you, if that's what you truly wanted. But only if you wanted it for yourself and not something just to please me. He took a deep breath. I love you as you are, now. And like I said before, I don't need anything else but to be with you. Tony smiled and held a hand to his cheek. Thank you, she said. Then her avatar faded. He smiled as he walked down the beach until the sun set and the darkness came. I awoke with a start. My head felt clear, my body felt better than it had been before the empathetic data leakage. But I was a bit disoriented from the dream. That dream felt so real. I sat up and went to the small printer in my quarters and dialed in some water. When it finished printing, I drank it quickly, grateful for the moisture in my mouth. I laid back down on the bed, curling up under the blankets. Tony, I said. Yes, Eli. You were in my dream. I know. I was there. It was a beautiful place. That was real then? Yes. I started to feel sleepy again. I need to really sleep this time, I said. I know. Don't worry. I'll make sure you're not disturbed. Thank you, Tony. I closed my eyes again and drifted off, feeling loved and cared for in a way no one else except Nelson had ever made me feel. At that moment, I didn't care if it was the alien tech or not. It was just nice to be loved. You have been listening to Tales from Flat Space. If you want to support me in my writing, there are several ways to do it. Share this podcast, find me on Twitch, or subscribe to my website, ljspencer.ie. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.